Hi, guys, and welcome to my live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, for those of you who don't know me, I am Donette, and I have been talking about repatriation to your home country for the past 3 years. About today, I touched on it the last time I was in here that I did a live, and I'm just trying to hone in a lot more on this issue of and if you can't hear me or you can't see me, then let me know as you come in. But the issue of Americans or Black Americans doing business abroad. And all right, so just a little bit about my background. So I am once again Donette. I I'm from Guyana, South America, but I grew up primarily in the United States. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, where I lived for about 20 years before I moved. Well, maybe about 15 years before I moved south with our kids, my husband and I moved south. So we initially went down to Florida. And then after Florida, we relocated to Atlanta where we bought a home. And then we relocated back to Florida because we just wanted to be back in the warmth. The cold weather in Georgia wasn't what we wanted to do. So we ended up moving back to Georgia. So I am an NYU grad, two-time, NYU grad. So I did my bachelor's and then I did my master's. I also, of course, I got my community college degree um, prior to going on to NYU. So I was a journalist for some time, and then I moved on to other things as I developed in terms of my career development. So I did a lot of stuff before I finally got to where I wanted to have something different and do something different. And over the years, my South American granny would always tell me to come back and do something. She says, if they ever throw you out of the United States, at least you'll have something to come back to. Um, and so I would come back here to where I'm from, which is Guyana, all the time as I was growing up. So it wasn't a new space for me. So even though I grew up primarily in the United States, it wasn't a new space. So, but I just didn't want to, of course, um, you wouldn't uproot your children, you wouldn't uproot your entire family and go to something that is very uncertain. So what I did do is I finished up my degree, all my degrees. Went on to teach in college for 20 something years, and I still teach, I still lecture. I just took some time off and will return on a part time level pretty soon. So, but as the kids got older, one went off to college, one went into engineering, the other went into, just the United States Marine. The youngest one, he's now 25 years old. So the reality of it is that we wanted to do life differently. Well, I wanted to do life differently for sure. And of course, when you're with your partner, you are always hoping that that person joins you in pursuing something different, something more quiet, something more productive. That I thought, because although I had a pretty decent career, although I love lecturing, although I lived a pretty decent life. I always knew and felt like there was something more. And I knew that, as I started to explore different uh, ideas for myself in terms of side gigs and so on, I realized how incredibly difficult it was to try to do anything in the United States outside of a home business. So you can do things at home if you have that skill set that allows you to stay home and work from home. Um, Most of what I do, I consider hands on for in terms of side gigs. So events and so on. I do events and I do wedding planning and I do all that stuff. So you can do a certain amount from your home, but in reality, to store all those things, to get clients, to pull people in, having a space is extremely important because people will drive by, they will see. You can advertise much more louder. You can do so much more with when you have a space to really market. And as I started to explore real estate, I realized that it was almost impossible to get a space without paying sometimes 7, 8, $10,000 a month. Not only is that hard to maintain or to come up with if you are just starting a business off, you want as low expended, in terms of what you have to spend on. You want it to be as low as possible, so that way, because a lot of the times we're going in with our own monies, so we're not, because banks aren't running to lend black and especially black folks money. They're not running to lend you money and give you $1 million to start off your business or give you hundreds of thousands of dollars. They want to lowball you into these avenues of, well, we can only give you this, or we can't give you anything at all, or they lowball you into a category of, well, they can't trust you enough to bring monies and interest back to them. So when you're caught up in those type of situations, it's kind of hard for any business to get fully off the ground. And in the United States, where things are so expensive, and you're talking about whether it's the space that you're renting, or if you are, I mean, of course, you got to pay water, you got to pay light, you got to pay employees, you got to have all these establishments. I mean, everything has to be situated where you're doing things legally. And of course, that's not a bad thing, but when it comes down to the amount of money that I would have had to spend, because my idea was to have a rental hall, because I love decor and I love to do weddings and I love doing all this stuff. But for me to had gotten into a space when I started to once again explore real estate, it was just really, really very heavy in pricing around the area. First of all, I live close to the beach, so that's one thing. So around the area right where I live, I started to look at certain spaces that were available, and those spaces were running what at least 10 grand a month. So if you aren't, and especially as a startup business and a startup minority business, I like to say I'm 3 times a minority. I am black, I'm a woman, I'm also Caribbean. So for slash South American, or South American slash Caribbean. So when you look at all those factors that comes against you, especially in the market space where they already don't trust loaning you their monies, banks don't trust loaning you their monies. It's like, well, how do I come out? Like, I have all these visions, and I loved the hi Maxi, I love the idea of owning my own and being able to monopolize on my concepts, and to bring people in. I loved it. I love decorating. I love going to spaces and designing wedding halls when clients, when I'm hired, and so on. But I also wanted my own space. And more as I began to think about it, I realized that it's nearly impossible. And I saw a future where you honestly don't own anything in the United States. I saw a future where, okay, yes, I've come this far. I have attained my degrees. I have worked my ass off. My husband has worked. We've both been working since we were teenagers before we met, right? Because I've been, working since I was 15 years old. Just doing summer jobs and so on. So, and he's been working just about the same time with me. I took time off in between to do other things, but he's always maintained work, even from the time, dropping newspapers, whatever it is that he did in his neighborhood as a teenager. So for me, I said to myself, this is never ending. The bills are going to continue to pile. Well, it doesn't pile up. You pay them every month. Every month it's there, and it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to be there. So every time you pay off something and you tell yourself, oh yeah, well, now I'm in the clear, within another 25 days or 20 days or 10 days, there's that those bills come in again. And so you don't come out of the area of hi so you don't come out of this space of just always owing somebody, always trying to keep up with the bills, always trying to maintain. And it's very sad. And so and I think what bothers me most is that, or what bothered me most about that, is the fact that you are working hard. You have done everything that you had to do. College degrees, you know, successful, career successful. Put yourself out there. You raised your children well. You did all this stuff, and then going into 45 or so, when I maybe about 43, 44, when I started to come up with the concept of, well, listen, let me do something as a side gig. Love decorating. Why not do that? I can do it from home for a minute because hey, you can just get a storage, store your all your things, and then you can when it's time for you to go do a haul, or wherever it is, whatever it is that we're decorating, the beach or whatever it is, for a wedding, for a birthday, for anniversary, for a baby shower, or a house, or whatever, a backyard. You just go pick your things up, and you take them to the whatever, wherever area it is, and then you pack it back up in your vehicle, and you bring it back, and you put it back in the storage. So that in itself wasn't hard. But you see, I'm a person with a lot of vision. I have vision. I have things that I want to do. And so it became very complicated for me to just sit there and not, go after the things that I thought, would have put me where it is that I want to go towards retirement. So I'm saying all this to say why I got fed up and decided to move out of the US. And I'm encouraging even my African American brothers and sisters to consider relocating, if it's something that they want to do, or doing business overseas, period, because it is so possible with the money that you have, right? So here is where I got, really, really frustrated, that to afford a rental hall for about $10,000 a month, $8,000 a month, and I'm in Miami area, Fort Lauderdale. It was just really frustrating to think that, oh my God, I have all these beautiful ideas, but I can't bring it to life. I can do it to a limitation in terms of going to other people's spaces and decorating their spaces. But I wanted my own space. I no longer wanted to just show up and design. I wanted to have my own space where I can design. And then what I saw over and over again is other designers who are doing the same thing, and even though they were doing it on a much bigger or wider level than I was, they didn't have their space. Yeah, absolutely. They didn't have their own space. What they had is, other people's spaces to design. They had, these people had their own restaurants, or they had their own rental hall in some way, or wherever it is that they design, it was always somebody else's space. And these were other black, you know, women that I was following. And I mean, they did magnificent work, right? So, and I got very, um, I don't know, like maybe a little bit disheartened, because I felt like as though if they're doing it at that high level, and I am now struggling to do it, right? To design, why do I feel like as though I'm gonna get, if more than they've gotten in all these years that they've been doing what they do? So I just realized that it's not going to happen. And it's not to say that you're holding yourself down, because I've never been that person who holds myself lower than anyone else. But reality is reality, right? The banks aren't rushing to give us money, as black women, as black people, period. right? My collateral isn't at that level where I can just go and rent a place for $10,000 and have 30, 40, $50,000 to just give away, to a business establishment, and then hoping that I will bring in the kind of customers to repay that or to continue to pay that. So, whatever money you have, you want to make sure that it's invested well and that it works for you. Okay. So that's where the frustration came in. Knowing that you can do better, even with your side gig, and not being able to really make it work the way you want to. So this brought me to this topic today of the considering to do business over outside of the U.S. So initially, when I started off, it was having these conversations with those people who follow me. It was just a few people that came in and were listening to me, talk. I'm always trying to figure things out, and I figured it out with you guys. Along with you guys, and trying to see what it is that I can do outside of the United States that would have allowed me to not spend a whole bunch, but also attain a whole lot more than I would if I continued to live in the US. I have my dreams for retirement is very lofty, I would say, in a way, but not extremely expensive, but just a nice life towards retirement. And why shouldn't I have that? And why can't I afford to do the things that I want to do? Now, this is once again, I am two times NYU grad. I am a professor for over 20 something years at this point. I am I've raised my children, our children, we raised them, send them off. One an engineer, one went off to college, one went to the United States Marine. So you're not looking at someone who has done nothing at all and expect a whole lot from the universe. You're looking at somebody who has done the hard work, and yet still I found it impossible. So I can just imagine what happens with people who are sitting there not doing what they should, and they have dreams of doing more, and they can't do it because the resources just isn't there. So what do I do? My dad had told me once that when you get tired of the same thing, eventually what you do is you push back, and you do something else, and something that maybe you don't think that you're probably even capable of doing, but you would just push harder to get something else done, and to make a difference in your life, and to make a difference around you. So what I'm getting at here is this: is that if you are caught up in that cycle of paying bills every week, every single month, I should say. Well, it seems like every week because every week that comes around, there's something different to do. So I don't think there's a week that goes by that you're not paying something, right? So every single month, there's a certain amount of monies that is allocated towards your bills. And now my thing about that is so disheartening is that you never, you put about 80% of whatever it is that you earn into you know, just living, whether it's rent, paying water, paying light bills, paying car notes, paying whatever it is. And so you may try to cut back and live, as frugal as you can, but in reality, you still have those major bills to pay. And if you have credit cards, and if you have school loans, and if you have all those things, they say go to school and do this and do that, and then you'll be fine. You'll attain these wonderful positions and all this stuff, but when that time comes, I think a lot of times we end up seeing that a lot of people who haven't even gone to school make billions of dollars, right, from doing sports or music or whatever it is they use their talent to do. So we're for those of us who aren't in that position to become billionaires and millionaires just off musical talent or sports talent, we have to digress and do whatever we have to do. So I got tired of not being able to do the things that I want to without worrying about finances. And so what I did is I took my grandmother's advice. So for those of you who may not know, my granny is from Guyana, is from South America, but coming home over time, she told me to always try to get something done home in case, something happens to you overseas and you can just come home. So what I did eventually was that I decided to do something here, and that dream of owning something didn't really manifest to me just yet. Just piece of land. And I was looking at that Tyrese show, a clip that he had, and showing what he did with his backyard, and having his a little, almost like a little house with my money. I can do I don't have to spend a whole bunch of money. I can take some of my retirement. I can take some of my paychecks, and initially it started with my paychecks. So I started to think about what I can do with my paychecks. So rather than taking my paychecks and spending it on, let's say, Amazon or whatever it is, I did spend a whole lot on Amazon during the pandemic, like so many people did, because I redesigned my entire unit at the time. But those things I ended up using, of course, in my new space that I had, that I eventually built. So my thing with that is that getting fed up, getting tired of not being able to get what it is that I want in the US. I decided to move overseas and do something different with the monies that I from my paychecks and so on. So that is where I am with you guys today. So for those people who are going to come in and listen to this show later, I want to implore you, for those of my African American brothers and sisters, especially Black women, I want you guys to know that the diaspora is here for you, and that you're being invited to explore your options outside of the US. And know that if you even set a budget of $500 a month, you can build an entire building within less than a year or so. And you can decide that you want to live and rent that space as well. It's so possible. And this is what you have to understand, that materials aren't as expensive. Labor is definitely inexpensive. You just need the dream to go outside of the US, just like so many other Black American women that are doing now. And take your monies there to do business, because then you can also earn that money and live cheaper, and you don't have to worry about, okay, well, every single month 80% of my salary is gone. It's gone because of the fact that you are spending it on rent, on mortgage, on all those things. And you can still live a nice life. Like, you can actually design your home and design your yard the way that you want to, and still have a space where you can rent out. So, and this is what I did here at my venue. So we have a space where we live. We have a space where we can rent out in terms of Airbnb. We also, and we're about to build an additional room for Airbnb rental. Not about, but we will be doing so in the future. I have a bistro. I also have a rental hall, like I said, and I have the entire courtyard that I can do bigger weddings if I need to. So that dream of bringing, everything that I wanted in within the hall of the, within a hall, which was supposed to exist in the US but couldn't afford it. I decided to take that dream and bring it out of the United States and bring it into a place where I can afford to do exactly what I wanted to. And I ended up with we ended up with three buildings so far, right? What I do know, and I can tell you, is that it cost, when I did the math, it cost about maybe 10 million Guyana dollars to do it, which is about 60,000 US dollars. But doing business, because I'm in business here, I was able to offset a lot of that cost by using the money that you do in business to and that you do weekly to help sustain that $60,000 that we needed to build the venue. So so let's say maybe about 40,000 came out, or about 30,000 came out of our pockets. The other $30,000 would have come from the business. So that way it offsets the cost. So you're not even, because we started doing business before we stopped building, right? So by the time we were halfway through one building, we well when we I completed one building first because my husband came in afterwards. So by the time I was done with that building, when and my husband came in, somewhere, because he didn't know about it, it was a surprise for him, because I didn't want him to know, because I wanted to kind of like trick him into coming here to live with me. And I knew that if I had something substantial, that he would. He knew we bought the land. That was understandable, but he didn't know when I started building. Um, but my whole goal was to make sure that we are financially fit, that we didn't live and pay bills continually that were so high, um, and that stressed anybody out, because after a while you kind of get tired, because if every paycheck you make you make pretty decent money, and then every paycheck you wish, you're saying, okay, well, this paycheck I'm gonna get to put away this amount. Something comes up, it takes it, and it gets frustrating. So for this venue, we are paying less than $200 a month in bills. We buy whatever it is that we want. We shipped in just about everything, because I had so much. We had so much from the house in Georgia, from the unit in Florida. So it's like there was nothing that was short. And then I had loads and loads of wedding planning stuff. So we're not short on that. Tables, chairs, all those stuff. I had a lot of it, because I used to just go buy them on Marketplace, and in Florida, I would just buy things and put it in my storage. So my storage was packed with things. I ended up losing some of those things over time. This guy bought the unit because I wasn't paying any attention to it. So this guy bought it. I was busy billing here, and just fell off with my payment at one time. And after about 2 months or so, I think they started, saying that they'll put it out there, but I didn't even realize that, they were, well, they did what they had to do. But anyway, I ended up getting most of my things back because I bought it back from the guy. So I don't even think it was the money. It's just more of the, being busy here and not paying any attention there. So, it just shows that you need to have that balance. So, because I was here and I was living peaceful and busy with contractors day and night, and that really just fell on the back burner. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just pay it off, next month or something like that, and just that just didn't happen. And by the time I called them to pay them off, they'd already put it on the market. And um, it just really just was a bad experience. But anyway, the guy who bought the unit was willing to give us back everything, so I got back about 95% of my things. So I didn't it wasn't a full loss. But the the fact that you could consider living and doing business abroad, or doing business in the diaspora, is something that you ought to think about, especially at this time when things are so unstable in the United States, especially because of the fact that you can do life differently and do it smarter, and do it more financially secured in a different space. Don't be bamboozled by people who say nasty things about other countries and this and that. And listen, we have cities in the US that is crazy to live in. Anywhere you go in the world, you have to be, your security should be top notch. You should know and know the city, understand the area, to go there and visit before you make any decisions, of course. Check it out, make sure you're comfortable 2 3 times maybe before you even make a decision. Find out from the locals how they went about doing their business. Find out about pricing, find out about building, find out about land, owning land, lease, who's best trusted in terms of real estate in the area. So do your research and do your initial thing that you need to do to make sure that you're not scammed, of course, and to make sure that you can actually live and exist in that space that allows you to do life differently as you approach, especially for those people who are approaching 50, 51, 52 years old. You're almost halfway, uh, to the century, right? So my thing is, or you are halfway to the century, so you want to make sure that going into 80, 85 years old, God spare our lives and allow us that time on this earth. You don't want to be here struggling. And then it's not only that, it really is about well building towards the future, towards your children, grandchildren, and future great grandchildren, and so on. Because one thing about owning land outside of the United States is that whatever you own is always going to be yours. It's never going to be someone else's. The government don't come and steal your stuff or whatever it is, or can just come and take it because you're not paying taxes. Taxes on this place is probably about $100 or so a year. um, and that's it, 100 US dollars. Okay, that's about $20,000. So whereas taxes even on my house in our house in Georgia was, I think, about, I don't know, it wasn't that expensive, but it still was about 13 or $1,400 a year. So that's, I mean, compared to $100, seriously. And on top of that, the land here is way, way bigger. And I did so much more here. And I can live here. I can do business here. I can enjoy steak. I can enjoy ribs. I can enjoy lobster. I can enjoy everything that I want to without breaking the bank, right? So I am enjoying this part of my life. I am, I'm not disconnected from the United States. And this is the one thing that I want to talk about just a little. Like, you don't just disconnect from the US. I'm still a United States citizen. I am very much, my children are there. My grandchildren will be there. So, you don't get disconnected. You don't become, um, just expat overseas, or for me, a repat, and you never connected back with the United States. Like, that's not true. Like, I still am going to be working there. I'm still going to be doing things there. I'm still going to be shopping. I'm still going to be doing all the stuff that I do, outside of, calling it my residency, so to speak, because I want to live cheaper. I want to be able to do things differently. And I don't think the US has space for people with my mindset. My mindset is, how much can I save? How much can I have towards retirement? What do I, and when I say that, I mean, if you're willing to spend the money to keep living there, fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not telling you that you're doing something wrong. I think it's wonderful if you have that, that opportunity to keep, most people are not going to pack up and leave, obviously. But if you do want to pack and leave, just know that there is an option there, and that a lot of other people are doing it too. Not just me, not just us, just us as a couple, but a lot of people are doing it. All right. So do consider, traveling abroad, seeing a place that you love and that you enjoy and that you could possibly live in, and retire in, especially as your kids head off to college. And anybody who's of my age, 50 or 51 or years old, you have college age children, or adult children, or young adult children. Not, just most of us do, not everybody. A whole lot of us do, I should say. I haven't looked at the statistics. But if you think about it, for the people like me and you who have children who are outside of the home by now, try to do something different, and don't be scared to step out. Don't. I did it, and I know I did it only by faith, um, and making a permanent decision that instead of taking that $500 that I would spend on Amazon, or go to Ross and spend it out buying more things, or spending it online somewhere, I wanted to take that money and invest it into a property. Real estate is where money is, and where the future is. Always, it's always been that way. So it doesn't make any sense to do anything other than that. All right. So hopefully you guys can consider, examining other places where you can possibly build. And, whether it's Africa or the Caribbean or any place else, these places are open to you. The people look like you, and it will help you a whole deal towards retirement and doing something different. And please start watching at videos or vlogs online with African Americans who are doing business overseas, who are living overseas, or African American women who are house sitting across the globe and doing life differently. Start watching at videos with, you know, just people doing things different than you are, and stop making assumptions about what life is like in other places, because there's nothing wrong with, especially where, for me, I'm doing business and living. My life is fine. I'm not here terrified of a gunman coming in and doing something crazy just for no reason at all. You have to be targeted in these places in order to, for somebody to run up on you. But to randomly select you to just start, gun blazing a gun, in the public supermarket and church or anything like that. Those are not things that you worry about when you live in these spaces. You go about your business, you do life cheaply, you do life, in a more relaxed way, and you enjoy. All right. So, anyways, well, thank you so much. And whoever comes and see this video later on, if you have a question, if you have any concerns, and if you have even a difference of opinion, that's fine. It's not for everyone, it's for some people. And for those people that it's for, I hope this helps you. And if you want more information in terms of if I can assist in telling you some steps to take as you do the same walk that I've done or that my husband and I have done, I'll be more than happy to. You take care. Bye bye.